All right, after watching the previous 5-1 lesson, we should be able now to fill out this unit circle pretty much in its entirety. And this is really the things that you're going to end up memorizing before probably March. You'll have all of this thing memorized within the next 2-3 weeks. Probably into February, you'll have this memorized. So let's first start with the fact that we have a circle with a radius of 1, which then means that this point right here would be 1, 0. And then this point up here would be 0, 1. This point over here would be -1, 0. And this point down here would be 0, -1. But we also know that our circumference was 2 pi. So therefore, if that's 0, if we go all the way around, that's 2 pi. Because the circumference of the circle is 2 pi times the radius, and our radius is 1 because it's a unit circle. So then we looked at the fact that, okay, if it's 2 pi all the way around, then halfway around, it's pi. And then this would be half of pi, that distance. Well, then if I go over to this third quartile here, however you want to say it, you'd have 1 pi over 2, then 2 pi over 2, then 3 pi over 2, then 4 pi over 2, which is 2 pi, if I break this up into fractional parts of circles. So by doing, and then looking at your WebAssign, you're also going to be doing this, and we're going to be talking about the points. Well, we already found these points, the actual point on our circle, knowing which angle we're talking about. So if we go from 0 to pi over 2 right here, right, then halfway, half of a half is a fourth. So this is pi over 4. And we figured out then that pi over 4 was radical 2 over radical 2, both for the x and the y. Which means also then that if this is pi over 4 here, then over here, this would be 3 pi over 4. And because if I'm just counting the quarters here, quarter circles, there's 1 pi over 4, there's 2 pi over 4, but that's half a pi, then 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, then this would be 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4. So it's really easy to memorize because we're just talking about fractions. Well, our corresponding points then also just flip. Instead on pi over 4, instead of going over radical 2 over 2 and up radical 2 over 2, we're now going left radical 2 over 2 and up radical 2 over 2. On 5 pi over 4, we're going left and down, so they're both negative. And on 7 pi over 4, we're going right, then down. So that's how we arrive at those points. Each point is radical 2 over 2 in some way, the x and the y. Now, if you look at the last video, we talked about the 30 degrees, 60, the 30, 60, 90 triangle, which I think now would be a good time to go ahead and throw those numbers in here. So this is 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45, 60, 90, 120, 135, 150, 180, 225, sorry. We're going to add, let's see, that's 30, 210, 225, 240, 270. I think I put that one in the wrong spot, didn't I? 270 degrees, 300, 315, 330, and then 360. So when we look at the angles here of 30 degrees, or in this case, it's going to be 30 out of 360, which is what, 1/6 of, or 2/6 of the way, 2/12 of the way, which is 1/6 of pi. So this is going to be pi over 6. Then this one right here would be 2 pi over 6, which reduces to pi over 3. So then pi over 2 would be 3 pi over 6. And if I just count the pi over 6's and reduce the fractions, I have all the pi's. So pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3, 5 pi over 6, which is right here, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, which is 4 pi over 3, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, which is 5 pi over 3, and then 11 pi over 6. So that gets all of our pi increments. Now these are the only ones we're going to memorize because they're so common. And I know you got to be wondering, why am I learning this? Well, because you will use it many, many times moving forward. Okay, so let's get back to our points then. So our point right here, our x and our y would be found by going over radical 3 over 2 and up 1/2. Well, these switch on the pi over 3 or the 60, it's 1/2 and radical 3 over 2. Because if I draw the triangle out, you can you see these triangles? That they're just flipped. The short leg is now 1/2, the long leg is radical 3 over 2. So if I go over into this quadrant, it's now negative 1/2 up radical 3 over 2, and then negative radical 3 over 2 up 1/2. And then here, you can see that it's negative radical 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. And then this one would be negative 1/2, negative radical 3 over 2. And this one would be positive 1/2, negative radical 3 over 2. And then positive radical 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And what we have here, and I'm going to erase these or try to, what we have here then is what we call the unit circle. And everything we need to know about the unit circle is on this foundational guide, and it should help you memorize these quite a bit. I know a lot of students I've had in the past, this is their go-to sheet to memorize your points, your pi values. Your degrees are pretty straightforward if you can do fractions and divide. But this is really the basis of all of Chapter 5, all of Chapter 6, all of Chapter 7. This is it right here.